Okay, talking today about how to get some different voicings happening from the major scale modes and also the melodic minor, actually, but still basically starting with this C major scale. Just those notes, just to recap briefly, we know that if we start that on D, it becomes the Dorian mode, and very useful for jamming out on D minor 7 or a standard D minor. So this could apply in, jazz players use this stuff, but I'm pretty sure you could get away with it more in pop music than what we're hearing a lot lately. Specifically, I want to talk about how to get into fourth voicings. I've touched on it a little bit, but basically the idea being that instead of going 1, 3, 5, 7, everyone knows that's D minor 7, and if we put the D down the bottom, that's your bass note, we've got the minor 3rd and the minor 7th, the 5th being neither here nor there, because it doesn't really change the flavour of the chord. But just viewing this whole group of notes, if we use a voicing that's fairly common, 3, 5, 7 and 9, we already know that we can just have very little trouble fooling around with that group of notes. That's the flavour of the D Dorian mode, and we also know that in relation to the root, D sounds probably the most resolved. I think you can actually put them, that same group of notes, I think that's basically the order of resolution, and meaning that D sounds the most in with D as the bass note, F pretty consonant, A also not really offensive, slightly more colourful, the 9th, G the 11th, colourful, and B being the most possibly problematic if you land on a strong beat with it. But instead of having this voicing, I just want to look straight at what happens when, instead of going up by thirds, you actually go up in fourths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. Suddenly you get that sort of open fourth sound. So let's start that with D in the bass, and let's look at it with the degrees that we're talking about on top of the voicing. So if I go D down a fourth, just get an idea of what that sounds like. And what you've got is what we call the interval of a perfect fourth. Do, re, mi, fa, perfect fourth. A to D, so that meaning that A is the 4th degree of E and D is the 4th degree of A. We've got that sort of thing. Now if we go straight up the scale to, suddenly it's different. We've got, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 semitones between the A and the E, when we move that up, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 semitones, gives us a augmented fourth, sharp fourth, flat fifth, however you want to describe it. It's a different sound. If I was going from F to B flat, it would be that sound, but it's this. So instantly we've got one kind of fourth voicing with the tonic on the top. We've got a different kind of fourth voicing. And so if we look at this first one again, we go, okay, tonic, 5th, 9th. To some people's ears, that's not what they're used to hearing. Depends what you get used to hearing after a while. This one if we've been playing sort of G13 voicings before, we can see that's pretty much the same thing. So if that was a G7, we'd often put a ninth in it, but in this case we're looking at it just all in relation to D. So just to be aware that that's one thing, that's a different thing, and not only that, there's a different note on the top. Keeping going up, F, C, G. Once again, this F sounding pretty resolved in terms of, well, there's your standard D minor 7, F, C, G with your 11th. So it's a different thing again. It's still just two perfect fourths, but it's not this one, it's that one. And going up again, G, D, A. Once again, two perfect fourths, but you've just got to decide for yourself if these sound any good. So far we've got that. The next one, A, E, B. So now you've got a fifth, a ninth, and a sixth or a 13th. It's got a different quality to it. The next one, sixth on the top, but then your minor third and your minor seventh there. So it gives you that. And then the last one would be 7th, 11th, and tonic, which you might say sounds a little more in than say that. But it depends how you play them. If this one is more of a passing one, then you won't have as many resolution issues. But the idea is that just in the way that you can use all these notes to make little lines out of that mode, which is easy when you're doing it all on the white notes. But if I instantly transpose this up to E flat, so now we're using as our parent scale the D flat major scale, and the if we started on E flat, ends up being E flat Dorian. Suddenly the shapes are different. So we can start here. But the idea is that that sort of forms some sort of coherent mode, you know, you're not just jumping off into the middle of nowhere. And you can make a little bass line using nothing but the notes out of that mode as well. Of course they get darker the further down you go. So that's one application for these fourth voicings. They're very convenient, of course, to grab in one hand or the other. So of course you can, instead of back to D minor, instead of just playing that as a left hand voicing, I can use these fourths as, so if I'm jamming with someone and we're playing D minor endlessly, to think about it is actually just from the top note of the voicing, you know, so I end up with that one, and just sort of making a mental note of the thing that in relation to D, that one's got a bit more bite to it, but I don't have to stay on it that long. Once again, all white notes, but if I'm doing it in E flat minor, instead of that voicing, I'm now using the exact same principle. And they might feel a bit weird at first, but you play them for a while and then suddenly they end up being another tool in your toolbox. So just briefly, that's let's take once again this C major scale. You can call it D Dorian, or I mean you can use it just on a C major 7 chord, the same thing. You've got that in relation to C, of course you've got, so if you've got a C major chord, you end up with that interval there, which you don't always want. But if you're careful, you can still use the same, like say as an intro to a ballad, something like that. You know, you've got the 4th in there. You can use that exact same mode with an F major 7 chord, where suddenly it becomes F Lydian with the sharp 4, and it's so that's, you know, just different flavors you can have, all uses of the same bunch of little 4th voicings. I would say those are the 3 main applications of the major scale modes. Is you can have it as a Dorian, a Lydian very commonly, or as you call it, Ionian. I mean, you can use the other ones too if you want to, but out of those 3 you'll just get a whole lot of stuff to work with. So just to power on, the place I want to take this is that you can do this, I believe, with the instead of C major, do it with the melodic minor. So only 1 note difference in the scale, but what happens is something a little bit freaky. So if I go up a 4th, okay, first thing I'm going to say is I'm using the C melodic minor, and I've covered before that there's 2 main uses for this scale, and the first being what we call Lydian dominant. So that would generally be an F13 chord, no altered 5ths or 9ths, just a really, but you've got a sharp 11 in it, so in relation to F7, F13, you've got suddenly the tonic 9th, major 3rd, sharp 11, natural 5, 6, flat 7, and we know that we can go quite a pretty little mode. We can use that there, and the other place we can use that mode is in relation to B7 altered, B7 sharp 9, sharp 5 generally is one of these. We call it B7 altered, and once again in relation to B, the notes end up being tonic, flat 9, sharp 9, major 3rd, sharp 11, sharp 5, dominant 7th, and so we manage to get so that's where we've got to before. But if we apply this 4th principle to F7 using the same mode, we end up with this. Suddenly we've got not just our standard 1, 7, 3, 9, 13. There's nothing wrong with those voicings, but after a while everything can sound a bit the same. So I reckon we can actually the weird thing about this is that if we break down these 4ths again, starting with, okay, let's just say we're looking at it F Lydian dominant, C melodic minor, same scale. Let's put the F on the top. Okay, so in relation to F we've got tonic 5, 9. Once again, inoffensive. We've got, if we move it up, G, D, A, which is 9th, 6th, and 3rd. Nothing really, standing out as being bad. But the next one, certainly, check this out. we go up to A, there it is. So what we're looking at there is the next, these things are technically a fourth apart in terms of the scale, but if you look at it, A down to E flat, well there's a tritone, once again a sharp fourth interval, however you want to call it, and then in terms of scale degrees, E flat, D, C, B, it's a fourth in terms of the scale, but we know that to be a major third, and of course it sounds like one, so suddenly a bit different, so just be aware that that's there, and then we go up again, we've got this, B, down again, a sharp 4, and then a perfect fourth there. So it's that sound once again up to C, G, D, just perfect fourths. The second to last one. That D, A, and your sharp fourth interval is there. Now your perfect fourth is on the top, and we know that as a fairly standard F7 voicing because we've got the E flat there, the 7th and the 3rd, 13th on the top. We're pretty familiar with that one. Second to last one, once again, we end up with a, well, from the top 7, sharp 11 and tonic. So if we would normally think of F7 as being with a 5th in it, suddenly it's that, which out of context might not sound like much, and once again we've got this, what looks like a major third, but it's actually 4 degrees of the scale. But once you start moving this around, which is, if you're used to playing F7 with your sort of blues licks, this is different. A bit more tension. So that's the Lydian dominant application of that, and if we once again say, okay, well actually we're going to be playing in B altered, which would often resolve to, say, to an E minor. So we've got that really altered mode going on, and we're playing the same set of fourth intervals. Where are you? What did I do there? To a B minor. So these are sort of, yeah, they take a while to get your hands around it and all the keys, and of course, you know, you can play 2 fistfuls of them if you want. Very handy, once again, if I wanted to play F7 and I'm sick of just playing that one voicing, I can maybe so it's still just F Lydian dominant, but some different voicings to put in. Yeah, that was basically just something I'm trying to look at lately. Enough of that for today.